I want to just say a few things about my own thoughts about arts and engagement, and then kind of get out of the way and let these folks talk about their own point of view in 7, 8, 10 minutes, whatever. We'll give Aaron a little more time, and then just open it up for conversation. Just to my own, there's several, obviously, two big words we could spend an eternity talking about, this word art, what that is, and what constitutes engagement. Before we ever begin to talk about those two together, my own sense of my own, I come at art as much from a sort of ethnographic position as a curatorial position, and see it as much as expressive culture and an expressive form, though I really do appreciate when something like the National Museum decides what it gets the privilege of position as big A art. But I think when we talk about arts and engagement, certainly at the center, the stress is often on the little a art and on the way in which expressive forms can be a window in on culture and place and class and race and all of these things, but also can be can liberate us from the connoisseurship that the big A art often doesn't create the same sense of liberation of discourse. We see, or I see, I'll just make it as a first person, the last week, or the last Civic Thursday was on politics. I don't think art is ever divorced from politics, and it is, we were going to talk about arts and engagement, but I think all art is political, and the presentation of all art is political, and the practice of all art is political. There are different ways to talk about what that politics is and how upfront it is and how clear it is, but it is a political act. When we see art at the center as a way to animate ideas, to animate community, to intervene, art can be seen as something that's sort of affirmative and a way to understand the brilliance of a place or a moment. But historically, art has also been a great act of intervention, and we could think of many examples. The most recent one that comes to mind is last week we took a group of actors through Mississippi to perform the Parchman Hour, a play written by Mike Wiley with a group of students. And that play, acted by students from UNC and Duke and the wider community, performed at a high school in Durant, Mississippi, or at the Convention Center in Jackson, or at Mississippi State, or at Delta State, Tougaloo. What went on in last week is all these people roamed around on this bus, and Tim Tyson would answer questions about history afterwards, was as I don't know what the reviews of the play would be by the art critic, and I don't know that it really matters, although I think they could have been very, very positive and glowing, but I don't think that was really what was going on. It was the engagement the students were having with the experience, the engagement that this is a play based on the Freedom Rides and written in connection with the 50th anniversary. Freedom Riders that had never come forward and spoken testified afterwards. Reverend Ed King took the students on a tour of Jackson where people were jailed and beaten and tortured and bailed out. They went to Parchman to see where Freedom Riders were locked up. So the engagement around that was profound, and the engagement with the communities it went to, even people in the communities who didn't want to see it, and who certainly 50 years ago didn't want to see it. So I think that's part of where I live, at least, with this idea of engagement. And then I'll sort of get out of the way here by saying that the engagement we could talk about, and this is one thing I'd like us to talk about, multiple sides of this. The engagement we have when we go to do performances event, and what kind of engagement as an audience member we have. what kind of engagement and the difference in the engagement we have when we are the artist or we're trying to practice an art, which I think is the most profound sense of engagement with art. And these are not mutually exclusive, of course, when we do all of them at different times. The engagement that art allows us to have with our colleagues on this campus, and then likewise the engagement that art can help us cross boundaries and go other places, i.e. Mississippi, or our Duke Engage project in Tanzania, or Charlie Thompson's work on the border. The way in which, you know, a Bob Korstad interview can be an artistic piece, can be used as a historical document, but is in itself, the narrative is a piece of art. And what kind of engagement does that bring? And then what kind of engagement does it continue to have when we place it in an archive? All of those stretches, because it's pretty easy to close down this idea of engagement. And we're going to, you know, people up here can talk about it from various perspectives, but I really think that one of the things we're challenged at Duke, well, we're challenged by all of those things, but how do we engage this community in, not just in the consuming of art, or the receiving of art, but in the making of it as well, whatever that means. And I don't say that to mean that everybody, you know, everybody becomes an artist and let's join hands and everybody have a voice. But what do we do, you know, how do we share that experience while also taking advantage of the range of political and social and communal opportunities for engagement? And with that, I'll get out of the way. I don't know what order, Tori, do you want to go first to? Erin, you go first?
I can go. Okay. Sure.